Battletoads is a legendary game released for the original Nintendo system back in 1991. Now, I don't use the word legendary lightly either. The graphics, gameplay, and overall difficulty of this game really make it timeless. Now, as the title may suggest, I can beat this game. Believe me, if I can do it, you can too. So what I'm going to try to do is walk you through it level for level and maybe make your life a little easier. Now, I understand that some strategies might be better than mine, more effective. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just going to show you what I do, and hopefully I can help you out. So let's get started. The first level is not your typical side-scroller, because you can move around the board like in an arcade, and that's really the feel of Battletoads as a whole, an arcade game. As expected, it's a really easy level. It basically allows you to check out the different controls and get familiar with the range of your character. The basics are there. You can run, jump, and punch, and by tapping the directional button twice to run, you hit B to headbutt, or ram. You'll be doing that throughout the entire game. You'll see with this walking robot, I'll ram him, then give him room to come back before I break him into parts. If I don't do it like this, his helmet will fly to the left out of the screen, and I won't be able to ram it for extra points. You want to get in the habit of collecting as many points as you can, especially early on, because for every 100,000, you get an extra life, and in a game like this, every life matters. Check out this flying hell hog. You could actually get on his back and fly him after knocking him out of the sky. He spits fire, and it's fun to look at, but totally unnecessary. It's actually more of a nuisance, come to think of it, because the controls are a little awkward. There's no rush to get the one up here. Just line up your shadow on the ground with the shadow of the extra life and you'll be fine. The boss at the end of stage 1 is simple. It's a killer robot of some sort. Just avoid the laser shots, pick up the rocks that it shoots, and while it rests, throw them right back at him. All it takes is 3 hits. I think it's pretty clever that you never actually see the enemy as a whole. It's entirely from the robot's point of view, and I think that's pretty original. I don't recall seeing that in a game prior to this one. So now we move on to the Wookiee hole, a great name by the way, and you could actually skip this level with a warp in the very beginning of the first level, but we're going all the way through here and I'll show you all the warps later. The premise here is to protect yourself from enemies and obstacles as you descend down the hole on a rope. By leaning against the wall for a second or two, you turn into a wrecking ball and smash enemies on the opposing wall. Looking back, I'm pretty sure that Rash here is responsible for Miley Cyrus's career. Also, you could hang a safe distance from the enemy, press B, and smash them with your feet. When you kill these particular birds, you can use their beaks as swords. If you repeatedly hit their lifeless bodies before they fall down the hole, you'll get increased points and eventually an extra guy, but it's really hard to do with other obstacles around you. Now, the only reasonable way to kill these robots is with the wrecking ball, so be prepared. Gray ones will come later, and they're quicker and more aggressive also. As you see, I've reached the 100,000 point mark, so I got an extra life. Now, the display is limited to 5 lives, but each additional life that you get beyond those 5 does indeed count. I usually lose track because you can't really count them, but don't really worry about it until you dip below the 5. You can see the difficulty in trying to get an extra life here while also trying to avoid the electrical currents. Luckily I was able to do it here, but usually I have a harder time. Oh, see, I got greedy there because I didn't need to use the wrecking ball to kill that bird. The lesson learned is that you should just stick with your sword or your fist when the birds are in the middle. These 5 currents coming up have a standard right-left pattern, so quickly descend before they close and then pull up so that you don't hit the current beneath you, and just repeat that until you reach the end. They get closer to each other as you go down, so keep that in mind. I actually enjoy this level a lot. Level 3, or the Turbo Tunnel, is one of the most notorious levels in Nintendo history. Growing up, this was typically the point where my friends would give up because they couldn't make it past here. We all know why. The ending is ridiculous. Everything leading up to it is easy and self-explanatory, so I'm just going to jump to the good part. There are 5 sections that you'll have to complete. The first one is a basic up and down exercise, and avoiding the slabs of rock with a couple of jumps in between. Simple enough. In Section 2, you begin to hit ramps that take you to other platforms. It's important not to move around when you're in the air. Just don't touch the controller until you're back hovering on solid ground. They give you some leeway in jumping over the barriers, so you don't have to be as close to the ground as you'd expect. And in this section, try to stay in the middle as much as you can, because that's where the ramps show up. Section 3 picks up speed, and you get your first taste of the very end of the level. Again, stay in the middle for the ramps, but this time you have to jump to hit them. Just follow the shadows of the rat rockets to know where they're dropping the blocks. This is a pretty easy area right now. Be careful at the very end because the last slab is in the middle. I usually stay up in the screen. Section 4. After the initial wave of 3 ramps and 2 barriers, a ramp shows up on the bottom. Stay under the teal barriers and hit the hovering ramp. Now this is how I avoid the stone fists. I stay up until the first 3 are visible, and then I move forward to avoid the 4th fist. I'll pull back in the middle and wait to hit the ramp. This part is tricky because you have to jump platforms on your own and there isn't a consistent rhythm to jumping and landing. Focus your eyes entirely to the left of the screen and jump not at the moment that you hit the platform, but rather the split second before the platform ends. It'll definitely require practice if you haven't done it before. Disclaimer: there is no secret strategy in beating Section 5. It requires true gaming skill and a knack for increased rhythm. I'd compare it to something like beating Mike Tyson in Punch-Out. I don't have much to tell you except maybe work on your speed or your rhythm by buying some bongos or something. Okay, so there are 20 slabs and a warp halfway through in front of the 10th slab, so you can always do that to cut your work in half, but if you decide to make it all the way through, I suggest just doing it without counting to 20. That would just give you one more thing to think about, and you need to be totally focused in this situation. Needless to say, you have to stay in the middle, and what I found helps me out the most is the audio, actually. The slabs make a sound every single time they appear on screen. I try my absolute best to mimic my movement with each repeating sound. 3 more barricades at the end, and you've made it. Congratulations if you do, because it's a true accomplishment. It takes genuine skill. I can only hope that I helped you a little bit. Level 4 is the Arctic Caverns, the obligatory ice stage in the game, and the frustrating controls that come with it. Like everyone else, I've always hated the ice levels in games. This isn't too bad though. I'm moving through this pretty quickly, but I encourage you to take your time with the snowmen. Just duck and throw back. There's no rush. That's a good thing about this game, I guess. No time limit. When you pass a checkpoint, all the obstacles behind you will disappear, so don't worry about getting hit from behind. Here's another good thing about the audio. You can hear when the snowman above releases the snowball, so you can expect when to see them. They'll turn into an endless pile of snowballs after you kill them, and you'll need those to break the wall. Just 4 shots. Now the spike things are kind of a bitch, especially given the slope of the roof, so be careful where you jump. Make sure you get down here in a hurry to kill the snowman on the left before he throws anything. And by staying to the left, you'll avoid the giant ice block. You'll need to jump on it to get it to stop, then pick it up and throw it at the wall. Oh, this is pretty sloppy. It's actually probably best to throw it to the left, not directly at the wall, but hey, what are you gonna do? Pay attention because one stray snowball is thrown here, so duck before you jump. The icicle here falls at the same speed as you do, so as long as you jump under it and stay to the left when you get the chance, you'll be fine. Just duck and cover from the 1-1-2 pattern and make your way to the left. The next part has a different pattern, duck and jump basically. The snowball that you have to jump for moves quicker than the one that you have to duck for. It's just one of those little things that game designers love doing. Again, just 4 snowballs to break the wall. You can tell I'm trigger happy. Although they're a different color from the ice, these moving platforms are indeed slippery, so try to land in the middle. And be sure to grab this one up no matter what, because even if you die, it'll reappear when you come back. This next part is really annoying because you have to stop the ice block from moving, pick it up, carry it to the left, and throw it at the wall, all while trying to avoid this spiky thing. I usually have a harder time than this, but not today, apparently. When you finally grab it, just walk to the post and throw it. No need to jump. The throw itself will bring you to the top. This part is really fun to watch. I don't know why. Out of everything on this level, I've died the most on this next section. You'll naturally want to jump earlier than you should, but don't because you'll hit the point right above you and come down into the spikes. So I guess my advice is to wait a split second longer than you normally would have before you jump. The snowman doesn't die after the first hit, so move along while he's down. When you get to this wall, snowballs from the left will come at you. Duck for 3, then jump for the 4th. As you can see, the 4th bottom one moves a little quicker than the rest. Continue to do this until they break the wall. There's another warp at this point, but I'm passing it by. I'll show you how to get it later. What you want to do here is to get as close to the stone wall as possible and continue to press left when you jump to avoid the sliding spike thing. The first one is easy, but you have to be quick with the second one because everything is moving a little faster. Drop down on the platform and jump to the right to complete the level. So we're a third of the way through the game. Not too bad. The good news is that at this point you should be pretty familiar with the gameplay and the controls. The bad news is that the levels get considerably harder from this point on. Now, we'll continue this at a later date, but if I missed anything or if I forgot something, please let me know in the comments. Until then, keep practicing.